If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
What?
Any other questions?
I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. Thank you for joining me for 1 full hour of Alaska Matters. Along with me, David Webb, the engineer, the broadcast producer, mastering all the switches and controls at the mothership of KGTL, it's FM 100 and AM 620. I say that just to give you options. This program is nothing if not a plethora of options for you to choose from. For example, today you can pay particular attention to the war on you. You can hear my deep analysis on why Senator Mark Begich is running as far from President Obama as he can get. Let's say you're in a party, right? You're at a party at a friend's house, and it's a 4,000 square foot house. It's a good friend, right? And you're at one side, you're like near the deck in the sliding glass door, and your other friend you see across the room, and they're like, oh man, I don't like that guy's wearing like a big old butterfly collar and polyester pantsuit, and he's got gold chains and his shirt unbuttoned to his navel and all his chest hair, and you're like, oh man, he's gonna want to come up and be by me, and all the women are gonna see me with him. No way, I want to be as far from that dude as I can be during the entire party. That's like Herb. I was going to say Herb Shainlin, but no, it's Herb from WKRP in Cincinnati. You know what I'm talking about. That is the same juxtaposition that Senator Mark Begich has himself from the President of the United States of America. Have you heard his ads? We're going to go into some of the details of why I think that he is running as far from President Obama as humanly possible. I mean, let's just say that you're going on vacation and your friend says they're going to Hawaii. You go, you know what? That's interesting because I'm going to Antarctica at the same time. I would just wish we could bump into each other. It's a shame. It's a real shame that we're not going to be able to like spend some real cordial time together with some little drinks and umbrellas and stuff, because I'm going to be down at the subarctic doing some research on penguins. Good luck with Maui. That's going to be real great for you. Also, only in Alaska, right? 38-year-old man clings to life. So the news yesterday morning was filled that a church picnicker was drunk, rode away from the party on a bike path with a bicycle. And of course, when you're drunk and you're at a church picnic and you decide to leave, you grab a little bucket of ribs with you. You take some ribs, and then he decided to share. He's a very sharing soul, and he shares some of his barbecue with a black bear. Well, the black bear liked it. His finger looking good. I mean, he's like, yeah, I'm down on these ribs. Thank you. And then he throws another chunk of barbecue to the bear. And the bear comes up and just wants to high five him, right? To say, hey, dude, thanks for sharing your meal. Accidentally rips off part of his face and some of the skin that was otherwise adhered to the back of this 38-year-old man. And then all of a sudden, he gets what? What do you think he gets? Yeah, he gets mauled, right? Of course. That's just the bear hugging him and saying thank you. And then he's laying in his hospital bed. And this is not funny, but seriously, he gets a ticket. He gets a ticket for $310 for illegally feeding a bear. Now, which part was he feeding? The barbecue? Is that where the ticket's for? Or is it for his own flesh? I mean, stupid is as stupid does, as my mother used to say, and life is like a box of chocolates. And he just picked the nougat because nobody likes nougat. This guy, this moron is suffering enough, is he not? Here's your opportunity to go to Blackwater Bend for free. It's time for your Alaskan mind bender. Blackwater Bend Espresso is brewing up gourmet every day. Stop out to Blackwater Bend today. How about a caramel latte? Oh, man, I'm making myself thirsty. My personal favorite, though, raspberry mocha. I call it a Viper. Now, that's manly. You walk up, you drive up, and you roll down the window, and you look at the barista, and you say, yo, give me a Viper. And you'll get a raspberry mocha. Go ahead and splurge with the whipped cream. Might as well. And yes, Blackwater Bend Espresso. Pat and the girls, they'll make coffee any way you like it. You don't have to drink what I drink. I also drink a Black Mancino, 4 shots, and a Americano, 16 ounce. No cream, the way God intended it. Blackwater Bend Espresso, not your average drip. Here you go. This is your opportunity. And all you've got to do is weigh in with your opinion. It doesn't get any easier than that. Do you think the 38-year-old mauling victim should have been ticketed for feeding a bear, or do you think the mauling was punishment enough? your name and answer right now, 299-7653. Enter to win. Come on, you can do it. I'm going to give away 2 of these things. It might as well be to you. It's going to be a random drawing. 299-7653 is the number to text only, please. Your name and answer. Should the 38-year-old guy get ticketed for feeding a bear, or was the mauling he suffered enough to possibly even spread the word about not feeding bears and teach him a very, very important life lesson? In 38 years, you think you would have already figured that one out. There's a 40-acre fire at Chena Hot Springs Road. Good reminder that you've got to be so very careful. I understand there was a brush fire out East End Road here locally in the Homer area over the weekend. Half a dozen or so fire respondents to the scene. Thank you very much, volunteers and professionals alike, for being there for us at all times. These are hot, dry conditions. And with all this dead grass, I saw a guy. I was driving to Anchorage over the weekend. I saw a guy. Let me get some Blackwater Ben coffee here. Lubricate the instrument. I saw a guy toss out a cigarette several cars ahead of me. And that bothers me to no end. But, I can see this because we're in traffic waiting for the road construction. Out tosses the cigarette. You can see the little trail of smoke. I get, very slowly moving forward, about 3 cars behind him, am I, and I see that by the time I get up to it, the cigarette is still burning and smoking. It's on the asphalt. So, all right, it's not the end of the world, but it's still stupid. I go forward another, 3 cars ahead of that cigarette. I look in my mirror, and it's still smoking. I mean, come on, people. No, please don't do that. And so anyway, please be so careful. And until you see the banner come down, now at the City Hall, the volunteer fire department and our professional paid wonderful staff at the fire department put up a banner to warn you and to let you in on the loop here that, hey, there is a burn ban in effect. Now, when you see the burn ban banner come down, we're good to go. And the all clear is given at that point. Until the burn banner comes down, say that 10 times, the ban is on, and it's on right now. You need to be aware of it. So just keep an eye on the Homer City Fire Hall, and when you see that banner come down, you'll know you're good to burn. But until then, please take heed, and of course, always call the fire department if you have any questions. It's super serious. 40 acres on fire at Chena Hot Springs. And don't forget also what's happening in Colorado, and our hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to those folks. And a big thanks again to the fire departments around the state of Alaska that are on high alert at this moment. There really is a war on you going on, and I want to get into that a little bit. And also, Assemblyman Kelly Wolf will be here with us in a moment to discuss the aspect of this war that is the anadromous streams ordinance that is a violation of your I'm just going to call it your rights as a property owner, and there's an opportunity tonight to speak to the repeal effort there. I want to talk a little bit more about the bag ban repeal, and while you were sleeping in Gotham, Mayor Bloomberg's up to no good again, and we'll have some sound bites from Senator Mark Begich and a deep, thoughtful analysis as to why he's running as far as he can from Barry Barack Obama, the President of the United States of America. That and more coming up here on Alaska Matters. You're listening to Alaska Matters Radio. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in Real Estate. Miss any portion of this program, go ahead and feel free to podcast later today at AdventureAlaskaRadio.com. AdventureAlaskaRadio.com. Got a lot of great things there for you, and of course, historical and archived programs are available. I just got a text message, and apparently the burn ban is in effect. Please, it is in effect on the Homer South Peninsula, as far as I know, all across the state. The fact that the banner is down at the fire department. I've actually looking into that at this time, why the banner has been removed from Homer Fire Hall. But in effect right now, the burn ban is still in effect. So please do not burn. So correction there. Just, I guess, when you see the banner come down, you just make an assumption. Apparently, no, don't make that assumption. I'm finding out from some sources at Planning and Zoning exactly what happened there, but it may have something to do with the banner being out of compliance with Homer City sign code. So if we get more details as the program unfolds here today, I'll share those with you. And again, the burn ban is in effect, regardless of the fact that the sign has come down at Homer Fire Department. So don't take that too lightly. The War on You update. In Homer, Alaska, as you know, a citizen activist collected enough signatures. That was Justin Arnold and his crew. I'm proud to say I was a very small part of that crew. Have collected enough signatures to put the bag ban repeal on the October ballot. And I bring that up to say this. when you see government overreach, when you see government taking your liberties, taking your freedoms away from you, and especially under the cover of night and without due notice and due process of law, and following what I consider to be a constitutionally protected right of your own property, your voice can make a difference. Here with me now is Assemblyman Kelly Wolf, and tonight at the Borough Assembly meeting, you'll have an opportunity to weigh in on the repeal effort that Mr. Assemblyman Wolf is heading up. Kelly, does it make a difference when you're sitting in a seat such as an assembly and somebody comes and spends the 3 minutes to discuss with you their view on a subject such as this anadromous streams ordinance?
Absolutely. You know, that is one of the things that I believe very strongly that as an elected official, and all elected officials should pay very, very close attention to the voice of the people. Elected individuals are there to serve the people. And, you know, I speak for myself, and I know, you know, having served in the legislature and now on the Borough Assembly, you know, all too often, you know, elected officials get disconnected from their constituents.
Mm-hmm.
They are there to serve the people, not their own opinions, not their own minds, not just a few, but the will of the people. And, you know, as we see in today's, you know, the turnout of people, individuals voting, you know, our process that our founding fathers, you know, put time and effort, and people have laid down their lives to protect. This is the greatest nation in the world, and we have individuals, whether they be veterans, you know, past, present. They have made the sacrifices. Some of them the ultimate sacrifice to give us the right to vote and to give us the right to collectively come together. And that is that's something that people should take very, very, strongly to heart. Is, you know, we need to hear from you, the people. I believe very strongly that this is an overreach. I believe that there's other ways, other means to protect our fish and wildlife habitat. I'm all for that, but to just blatantly come out and pass legislation, you know, in the dark of night without, looking at impacts, I think is wrong. I
do too, and I wonder out loud if that's an accurate way to portray it. And I'm going to editorialize on my own thoughts here, Kelly, that I think consideration was given to the ramifications this had on private property owners, and I don't think Assemblyman Smith cares. And I say that based on experience, and that is to say that my personal experience with some of the legislation that was adopted here in our Homer area, such as the Bridge Creek Watershed Protection District, limited you to 5% of your private properties that you could utilize for impervious coverage. 5%, magical number, pulled out of the air, no rhyme or reason behind it. I see a pattern, and that's what concerns me greatly. And I see a lack of respect for the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. And I know we have an Alaskan Constitution, and I know that we in it reference the United States Constitution, and I think it's serious enough that I would love for you to come up to Soldotna tonight, if you're able at all, and support what Assemblyman Wolf is doing here. And that is not to say that, Kelly, that you're looking to take back and roll back previously existing law. It's simply 2011-12, the ordinance that was passed and has gone into effect on some areas that it was to cover, not all, and was done without written notice to private property owners.
That's correct. Absolutely. I mean, this is, you know, we're not going back and taking away 2118, which is the original KPP ordinance that created the overlay district on the Kenai or in the Kasilof River. I mean, we're not going back and touching that because, you know, that is a major tributary to Cook Inlet. And there's an economic stimulus to the Kenai Peninsula. I get that. I understand that.
I do too.
20 years of my life doing habitat restoration. So, you know, whether you are for this or against this, the Assembly needs to hear you.
I agree.
I hope, and I I hope and I pray that people will get out and show up at the borough assembly chambers. This, I believe very strongly, is one of the single biggest issues the Kenai Peninsula Borough in 50 years as being an incorporated borough has ever undertaken.
Yeah, I agree.
Need to be heard.
It's so egregious in my mind that the fact that a task force has unfortunately spent a year or a better part of a year toiling at it, in my mind, as a leader would have said, excuse me, I don't like this, I'm not going to implement it. In fact, I'm going to champion its repeal now. And whether or not it could have been done, that's what I'm hoping to see. Kelly, that's what you're bringing to the Assembly and the people of the peninsula. Thank you very much, and best of luck. If you're not able to be there tomorrow, I'll have highlights on Radio Realty. We'll be taking excerpts of public testimony and so forth and sharing them with you. Kelly, thanks again, and Godspeed.
You take care. Thanks.
We'll be back with the answer to not the answer, your opinion to the Blackwater Bend Espresso Mindbender in the close of the first half of the show when we come back here on Alaska Matters. Welcome back to Alaska Matters. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. I don't know why I said that again. The war on you, I really want to get to the Mark Begich thing because truthfully, and I predicted this, and I never, ever, ever toot my own horn. Read my blog, read my online tributes to myself. You can anywhere. I don't toot my own horn. But I did predict that Mark Begich, Senator Mark Begich, in his efforts to retain his seat in perpetuity, he would run from Obamacare. And I said, we can't let him. We've got to consider it as Obegich care because it really is as much his doing as it is the president's. President Obama did not do the Affordable Care Act alone. He did not pass that by himself. It took the Senate, and it took all the members of the Senate that were Democratic, and that would include Senator Mark Begich. So I want to play just a little bit of, I really want to get to this Bloomberg thing. All right, let's do that real quick. Did you realize, and you probably already heard this, but I can't pass it up because I want to make a corollary between the bag ban here in Homer, Alaska that limits your ability to use the thickness of bag you choose in your own business down to just the micrometer at the checkout, but not at the produce stand. So it's ill-conceived, it's illogical, and it's going on the ballot in October. I want to continue to remind you it's as important to vote as it's even more important to vote than it was to seek out a petition to sign. We need the support, or we could be facing these kinds of micromanagement tactics that are going on in Gotham City. Didn't finish all the food on your plate? New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg has an idea about what you should do with the leftovers. Leftovers. Bloomberg wants New Yorkers to separate their food scraps for composting. The New York Times reports the Bloomberg administration plans to begin a citywide collection program. Oh, man. Officials say composting would be voluntary at first, but could become mandatory in the next several years. New Yorkers who didn't separate their food scraps could face fines. Fines. Do you see where we're headed with the bag ban? This is exactly the road to serfdom. This is the road to tyranny that we are on together, you and I. If we do not stop it in its tracks with the simplest thing you could possibly do, go to the voting polls, go to the poll in October, vote yes on repealing. I have to reread the actual question and to know whether it's a yes or no, but to repeal the bag ban. And if you're a zealot for the environment, bravo, good for you, I'm happy. Do something about it. That means litter control. That means a campaign for awareness of litter and plastic bags or cans, beer bottles, whatever the litter is, whatever the garbage is. Get an awareness campaign together. Get with the Chamber of Commerce in your community and design a way to have businesses voluntarily participate in the purchase of some reusable canvas bags with their logo imprinted and emblazoned on it. There's a marketing outreach campaign that can happen here. Tiffany and I love utilizing the Spit Trail. 4 miles of glorious trail. Love every mile and minute of it. Want to do a better job of being a steward of it, and you see a lot of garbage that is flown out of vehicles along the trail. Well, one thing that we thought of is simply right off the top would be a coexistence of a relationship between the Homer City Port and Harbor, whoever's in charge of maintaining that stretch of the trail, City Public Works or what have you, and the Homer Chamber of Commerce. What a great relationship to get together and sell, quote unquote, garbage cans at midway points, at points where a city vehicle can pull over and empty the garbage and replace the liner. It would be such a great way to then have a business sponsor that can. So your logo would be emblazoned on that can. Oh, that might violate the sign code. And we spent 16 years developing the language of the sign code, so we have to adhere to it. Shut up. Get him out of here. So now all of a sudden you've got Chris and Tiffany walking down the trail or jogging down the trail or biking down the trail. See some garbage, stop and pick it up. You know it's just 100 feet or 100 yards before you get to the nearest garbage can. Right now, it's 4 miles. That's a simple thing. It's voluntary. It allows you and I to become proactive, just like what Assemblyman Kelly Wolf does with his Youth Restoration Plan. Youth Restoration Corps is a youth initiative group that cleans up the rivers, cleans up the anadromous bodies of water, and restores them with very precious habitat restoration, be it from floods, be it from human involvement. They're proactively going out there and doing something about it rather than just going and crafting new laws. We have enough laws, folks. We have enough 3- and 4-letter agencies in this country, and if you're paying attention at all, you know that they are firmly aware of what you're doing in your every movement. Now it's time to just not invoke another regime on top of what we already have. And so that's why I bring this up. It is a war on you. You think what's happening in New York City can't happen here? You think that it won't be a matter of time before the mayor of a small community, and wherever you're listening to this, decides, you know what, or an assemblyman or a council person, you have too much freedom of movement. I don't know that we should allow you to, let's go ahead and try this whole curfew thing for everybody. A blanket curfew, because then the city public works employees can go out without, fear of traffic and so forth between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. without anybody on the streets. It's much easier to clean them and keep them clean. That's a good thing for the people. Let's restrict movement. And then there's freedom of speech. We can always go after that. We've got to stand together, you and I, and repeal the bag ban petition. The bag, I've been saying that for months now. The bag ban in Homer, Alaska. We've got to push it back, folks. It's a war on you. Tonight, you have an opportunity to go up to the Borough Assembly and say thank you, but no thank you. We care not to have property taken in the cover of night. We care not to have 50 feet of our property taken from us. You want to read something really interesting? I think it's called the Readout. The Readout Reader. I'll try to find it during the news break and read to you from it. There's a gentleman that lives on the Kenai River that's been living under 21.18 since 1996. He tells a story in there about not being able to clear some of the alder and shrubs between his house and the river where black bear like to travel. So he can't even create any visibility for himself. We're not talking about clear-cutting reporters or quasi-journalists that may be listening. We're not talking about clear-cutting. We're talking about just proper stewardship of his own land. And so consequently, he's been chased to his home by a grizzly, not a black bear, a grizzly bear, chased him back. He barely made it inside his house. And then, a tree fell on your cottage, your guest cottage, a tree fell on it. Well, first of all, not everyone can have a cottage, so we resent you already. Secondly, he couldn't cut the tree. The River Center was closed. He was told if you cut that tree without a permit, you could be fined. The tree stayed on top of the cottage with limbs penetrating the roof, water damage. Hey, you know what? Can't violate the zone. Folks, this is huge. This is overreaching. And worst of all, you as a property owner were not even informed of it. That's why 2011-12 is so dangerous. It's so precedent setting. Where will it go? You don't know. You honestly don't know. And so if you're in favor of restoration of habitat, get in touch with Assemblyman Wolf. He's a really good guy. He wants to hear from you. 394-1505. 394-1505. He can tell you about his restoration over the last 20 years of anadromous bodies of water. He understands better than anybody, maybe better than anybody else on the Assembly. I don't know that for certain, but that's my hunch. And certainly better than I or any other person that's elected that doesn't have actual hands-on experience. Give him a call. Do better than that. Go up tonight and testify. Your 3 minutes, it's a long drive, 3-hour round trip from the Southern Peninsula. 3 minutes, what good's it going to do? Be there. Be a body in the seats. Be somebody to support freedom, justice, and liberty. That means a lot. It means a lot. Show up and applaud. Hey, we're going to talk about mosquitoes. What's up with Sarah Palin? What's up? Mark Begich, we'll get into the whole Begich Care thing, and also Stacy Oliva. She is an activist in the Kenai, Nikiski, Soldana area. She'll be on the program to visit with us a little bit. And what would you tell your doctor if he asked how many guns you had? What would you tell your doctor if he asked the type of guns you have, the location within your home where you keep your guns? What would you tell him? I'll tell you what I'd tell him when we come back here on what my mom calls the greatest show on earth, Alaska Matters. You're listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. The engineer, the broadcast producer is Mr. David Webb, back up at the mothership of KGTL AM 620 and FM 100. Blackwater Bend Espresso Mindbender. Here's your question for the Alaskan Mindbender, and you can still enter to win. We've got a bunch of entrants already. Throw your name into the hat. Here's how you do it. Answer this question by text messaging me 299-7653. 299-7653. Do you think the 38-year-old mauling victim should have been ticketed for feeding a bear, or do you think the mauling was punishment enough? Text your name and opinion, 299-7653. Two of these Blackwater Bend Espresso cards, full cards, by the way, not just a cup, it's a full coffee card, going out to two lucky people. Enter to win, 299-7653. So many wrong things about that story, as Dave Webb introduced, we were talking about it during the news, and it's like, wait a minute. First of all, what was he doing drunk at a church picnic? That's number one. Number two, why did he leave the crowd, and how do you ride a bike with a handful of barbecue? There's so many things about this story that, well, let's take another story. You know it's summertime when you see stories like this. First of all, the church, the drunk guy at the church picnic, and then you've got this. And this is my headline. See, if I owned a newspaper, I could write headlines that would grab you by the throat. If you stab your stepbrother in the calf with a butcher knife, is he still the father of your two children? If you live in Fairbanks, yep. Yesterday's breaking news, a Fairbanks woman stabbed her stepbrother in the calf with a butcher knife. And then in the smaller print, her stepbrother is also the father of her two children. Where's Jay Leno when you need him? All right, let me take a stab at it. It's so hot in Fairbanks this summer. How hot is it? It's so hot you mistake your stepbrother's calf for a leg of lamb. That's good. It's so hot you accidentally have two kids with your stepbrother. And the last but not least, it's so hot you grab a butcher knife and say, I'm going to kill my brother/lover, and call it self-defense. Okay, if I have anyone left listening to the program, welcome back. We will leave the comedy to the professionals. Stacy Oliva is an activist and a great all-around Alaskan working on your behalf, whether you know her or know it or not. Stacy never rests. She is leading the charge with the Citizens for Responsible Waterfront Land Use Repeal 2011-12 effort. And tonight, as you heard Assemblyman Wolf so articulately say earlier, it's your opportunity to participate in the process. He and the rest of the Assembly and the Borough Mayor do want to hear from you. Stacy, it's a difficult thing to do, to go sit for 3 minutes and testify. You've been there before. You'll probably be there again tonight. What words of wisdom do you have for just a regular citizen out there that's thinking about going and speaking their mind?
Well, it is one of the hardest things that I have ever done. I do not like speaking, and I have found if I write my ideas and my thoughts down before I get there, I can make it through it.
That's a good idea, just even some bullet points. Or I do hear some people read, and that's fine. You know what you're doing? You're reading it into the record. However you feel the most comfortable to do this. And I talked with somebody, Stacy, last week about testifying in front of, say, even, for example, the Homer City Council, and it's intimidating and so forth. And he's also a person who is going to be considering a run for the City Council. And I just said, please take that with you to your office, and you will remember when you're on the other side of the microphone and the other side of the pulpit there, so to speak, that the people in front of you are probably a little bit nervous. But nevertheless, Stacey, this is too important an issue to not take a stand on. You agree?
I agree. Our private property rights are one of those fundamental rights that we need to guard and protect. I've heard you say it. I heard Kelly Wolf say it. You know, we are not against reasonable protections as far as habitat and, quote-unquote, saving the fish. But what we need to be very careful of is not giving away or giving up our liberty in the process of establishing these local ordinances and this governmental regulation.
Exactly. Well said. And that thought is simple as it is just that, wait a minute, this is our private property rights. Why would somebody not want to honor and respect that? And all I can figure, Stacy, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but all I can figure is there's a greater agenda at work, and you and I are looked at as just cogs in the wheel of the greater communitarian plan, and that is slowly but surely eroding what was once considered sacrosanct and never would be touched, and that is your ability to utilize your property the way you wish. But nevertheless, you hit the nail on the head. You and I both agree. We don't want people to go in and just start scooping out pieces of the bank on the Kenai or Anchor Rivers or Kasilof. We want people to respect the habitat. And at the same time, though, there's just throwing out the baby with the bathwater. They're not mutually exclusive. You can have reasonable protection, as you just said, as well as respect for the private property rights so hard fought for.
Absolutely. You know, one of my points all along has been there was at no point an opportunity for the private landowners to have a volunteer program established, and it wasn't brought to us by the borough. I didn't get a mail pamphlet that said, here's something we would like you to involve yourself in, and here's how we would like to educate you. It was just all of a sudden, boom, you got the regulation in your mailbox, and you were regulated under this very expensive zoning ordinance.
I find it so ironic that on the one hand, there's no problem issuing the actual booklet, sending the booklet out on the river, sending it out to the hundreds of property owners. No problem. That all makes sense. But notifying them that this is up for consideration, that we can't notify them for? Well, now, of course, they've changed the laws, and it is a requirement going forward, and I'm happy about that. And if that's what comes out of this, fine. That's a fine result. It should have been in place all along. It just never should have gone this far. But that said, there's also another mailer that has showed up into people's mailboxes, and that is from the Alaska Association of Realtors by way of the National Association of Realtors. And Stacy, it's interesting to me that some of the news outlets and organizations are characterizing that effort on the part of the realtor organization as some sort of outside lobby or influence, as though we're not of the community. We're right here. We're part of this community.
Absolutely. And I would say that the realtors, along with the landowners and the private property owners, really feel the effects of this type of zoning ordinance. I mean, that is the primary target, I guess you would say, of people affected.
Well, and I liken it to the canary in the cave. We see these things and then realize, immediately connect the dots and go, wait a minute, this has got dangerous ramifications down the road. Let's take another look at it. And that's what I wish that the realtor organization had been involved from the beginning. I think the assembly could have reached out and found a willing participant in discussing reasonable efforts. I think that the very fact that the Alaskan Association of Realtors, led in part mostly by the efforts of the KPAR, the Kenai Peninsula Association of Realtors, efforts to get some financial assistance from the National Association, that's all it was. And by law, of course, then it has to be mailed from that location and disclosed who's paying for it. But it's a very grassroots effort. I found it horrifically offensive that it was characterized as anything other than that. And I liken that to, okay, well, then let's take on the Cook and the Keeper. That is an organization founded by Joe Kennedy, and it's a worldwide organization. You never hear people say, well, that's outside influence and that's outside money, because it's local people doing the work. Same thing with the realtor organization. So, Stacy, where do you want to see people tonight, and at what time?
6 p.m., Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly Chambers. Please come. Please speak out, whether you're for repeal or against repeal. We want to have the public input there. We didn't get it at the beginning of this process. Let's at least get it in now.
Excellent. Well put. Thank you, Stacy Oliva, for everything that you're doing in your organization on behalf of all of us Alaskans and Americans. More to come here on Alaska Matters. Should be sitting on a beach somewhere drinking something pretty, relaxing. But you know, I'd rather be here with you. Just you and me? Little Pink Floyd? The good old days. All right, we've got important business to get to, Chris. Stop relaxing. I'm Christopher Story, and you're listening to Alaska Matters, what my mom calls the greatest show on earth. A reminder, the website is AdventureAlaskaRadio.com, AdventureAlaskaRadio.com. Had an email just a short while ago. Chris, heard your show a couple weeks back. You had Jerry Anderson and someone else on. I can't find it on your website. You're absolutely correct, Carl. It's not there yet. I apologize. We had a technical difficulty with some... Well, we use YouTube. I don't want to say brands here on the air, but I will. It's a YouTube. It's something that uses the intranets that Al Gore invented. And we put the programs on YouTube. And I was having some proprietary issues because one of the songs that we were using as a bump actually was protected, and YouTube was stripping it out. Anyway, long story short, I got Radio Realty posted to its website, radiorealty.us, but did not have an opportunity to scrub and edit and clean up the AdventureAlaskaRadio.com post. So we'll have that up here in the next couple of days, and you can go there. But you should be going back every day. I also put up things like... I've got an open letter to the mayor of Homer, Alaska. We'll be putting up there tomorrow. That also, by the way, will be featured in the Homer Tribune as a point of view. I think. We'll see. But that's an open letter to the mayor of Homer, Alaska, asking for intervention on behalf of a community member that is being fined nearly $2 million. I feel like Dr. Evil. $2 million for his zoning violations. It literally turns my stomach. It literally turns my stomach to even think of what happened to my grandfather's community. $2 million in zoning fines? Are you real? Oh, man. All right, what do you think? Fairbanks borough employees are gun-free no more? ? Assemblyman Lance Roberts has introduced an ordinance in Fairbanks North Star Borough from restricting employees from packing heat at work. Gun-free zones, he says, are the most unsafe place in America. The borough will consider the ordinance in the next 2 weeks. Here's my question for you. Let's do a little informal Alaskan Matters poll, and I've got some great gifts and prizes and cash to give away. All right, no cash and no real gifts, but I got some prizes to give away. And so send me your thoughts on this. Is it something that boroughs around the state of Alaska should look at, and cities and municipalities? Should the people that work for these agencies and these entities have the ability to carry firearms? Should they be able to take their Second Amendment to work? And I'm asking you, what do you think? It's happening in the borough assembly up in Fairbanks is taking this on. Basically, right now, it's a gun-free zone. You cannot pack heat if you're a borough employee. This Lance Roberts wants to change that, so he'll reverse it. What do you think? Send me your thoughts, 299-7653, 299-7653. I've got a great prize for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is for fear that you'll... not dial. No, it's good. You'll want this. Trust me. You will want this. Should city, municipal, and borough employees be able to carry firearms? Yes or no? Text me now, 299-7653. Are mosquitoes on the rise? No, says insect expert Janice Chumley. Janice says you've just got a short memory. You don't remember from season to season. But while an early snow cover last fall and a late spring may have protected mosquito eggs, I'm sorry, Janice, stand still outside. Go ahead and put on a tank top and a pair of biker shorts and stand still. And then you answer the question, do we have more mosquitoes than ever? I think we do. I just don't need any science for that. I just think it's sort of obvious. But nevertheless, it's every year it feels bad. Sister Sarah, she's back. Laurel Andrews with the Alaska Dispatch writes a completely non-biased piece. She's back. Sarah Palin, Alaska's. I've underlined a couple of sentences here in this article, and I would just want to read them as I see them and what goes through my mind when I read an article like this. Sarah Palin, Alaska's former half-term governor, is returning to the Fox News as a paid contributor next week, along with a continuing a 3-year love affair with the conservative television network. 3-year love affair. Do you hear this? Former half-term governor, love affair. Palin, a GOP darling, despite a failed vice presidential run in 2008 and her subsequent resignation as Alaska's governor. Okay, you want to know the secret here? Laurel Andrews, author of this piece. Do you know why Sarah Palin lost her 2008 vice presidential bid? 2 words. John McCain. That's why she lost. She didn't lose. John lost. John got as many votes as he did simply for the fact that he attached her to his sail. Her kite went up and drafted him, created excitement. That is the only reason he got as many votes as he did in 2008. My humble opinion. Fox News' Greta Van Susteren, what's she say? She says, I'm delighted Palin's returning to Fox News. She's got 3.5 million followers on Facebook. Yeah, she wants her there. And she also, I think, put it all in a nutshell. Van Susteren, my least favorite talk show host in the world. Least favorite. Said it well, though. I'll give her credit for this. It is free promo for Fox News and will drive TV critics crazy. They're obsessed with her. It's true. They really are. Speaking of women, today's a big day for women everywhere. In 1873, on this day, suffragist Susan B. Anthony was fined $100 for attempting to vote in 1872 presidential election. In 1928, aviator, we've come a long way, baby, aviator Amelia Earhart became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean as she completed a flight from Newfoundland to Wales in about 21 hours. You'll remember on this day in history, in 1983, astronaut Sally K. Ride became America's first woman in space as she and 4 colleagues blasted off aboard the shuttle Challenger. I'm so thankful that President Obama shut down the Challenger, the whole shuttle program. I am so very grateful because all we have to do, if we don't get into some sort of war with them in the Syria civil war, if we don't get into some sort of cross currents with the Russians, as long as we hold our mouth right and pay enough, they've agreed to let us go up on their rockets. So it's okay that President Obama shut down the space program. I am thrilled to no end. You know, those kids that dreamed of being astronauts and stuff, that's ridiculous. Stay here and become community organizers and pay your fine for not purchasing health care. Got it? That's the new America. That's hope and change. In 2006, Bishop Catherine Jefferts Schrory was elected the first female presiding bishop over the Episcopal Church. There you go. Big day in history for women. Big, big day. What are we going to do? I promised you we're going to do this. Let's say hello to a couple of our sponsors right now, and when we come back, we'll talk about why Senator Mark Begich is running so far from President Obama here on Alaska Matters. All right, Lieutenant Governor Meade Treadwell has announced his intent to seek the election of Senator of the United States of America. He is going to defeat, I predict he is going to defeat Senator Begich, Obama Begich. When you see President Begich, think President. Oh, God. Oh, I got to get some Blackwater, man. Okay, reboot. When you see Senator Mark Begich, I want you to think Obama. He doesn't. He wants to think anything but President Obama. In fact, he's got some real folksy Tom Bodettish type ads out there right now. Heard him all weekend in Anchorage. Hi, we here in Alaska. He's trying to tie himself back to Alaska. He spent 6 years becoming a Beltway man. He's coming back here trying to just be folksy like you and me. And he's talking about the NSA spying campaign on American people. It's just not going to. I'm going to do George Herbert Walker Bush voice for him as he was a one-term president. I likewise think Senator Begich should be a one-term senator. It's 1,000 points of light. Anyway, he's making all kinds of comparisons that he's just like you and me, and the NSA spying on us, and he talks about the Obama administration and the president won't do this, and I've argued with the president. Anyway, bottom line is I'll expose the truth here, so you just need to stay tuned throughout this entire campaign, and I will keep exposing the truth about what Mark Begich is really all about. And what is Senator Meade Treadwell about? Let me tell you. Fighting for liberty by reversing the Obama administration's relentless assault on our families and freedoms. Yes, check one. Fighting for fiscal sanity in Washington, D.C. We borrow too much, we spend too much, and we tax, finish the sentence, too much. Love it. Fighting for Alaska. The federal government must deal with Alaska's issues on Alaska's terms. Senator Ted Stevens fought every day to bring power and decision-making back home. So will I, says Lieutenant Governor Mead Treadwell, throwing his hat in the ring to take on the Senate race in 2014. I love it. Love it. I've already sent him an invitation asking him to be here and discuss with you why he wants this job and what he'll do for it. Well, I think he's outlined it pretty well. Speaking of jobs, listen to this. This is from Senator Mark Begich.
Welcome to another Begich Minute, plus or minus a second.
First of all, I'm sparing you the visual because he's not made for television. Go.
We're here with Ben Milstein, who has the Kodiak Brewing Company. He represented Alaska in a committee meeting we had today about how important small brewers are all around this country, creating jobs and economic opportunity. But it was exciting to have...
Okay. So talking about jobs, exciting opportunities, got a guy back there in Washington, D.C., speaking to 11 senators about the importance of the microbrewery industry on job creation. Okay, fine. Let's just talk about a little article in Inc. magazine that I read recently, back in April, where they actually interviewed people that are going to be faced with the decision, do I hire additional employees to grow my microbrewery, or under the auspices of Obama Begich Care, do I shrink my employee force back because I cannot, underline, cannot afford it. I cannot afford to bring my employees full coverage. I cannot come in compliance with Obama Begich Care. And so they're looking, what do we do in the balance? Now, these people are all about sustainability. They're about natural, recycled. They are about employing as many people as possible, keeping things local, be it the way they distribute, be it the way they get supplies, and hire. These are truly little micro engines of economy in your own backyard. And Begich Care eliminates the opportunity for them to grow, because in other words, that's the very company. They're not going to hurt Anheuser-Busch. They're not going to hurt Coors. They're hurting the little companies that are right teetering at the edge of profitability with 40 or 45 employees. In fact, this one brewery that was really featured extensively in this article in Inc. magazine, they're like, we like the president. We're not against people having health care. We just can't afford this. So maybe some of our employees are going to go to part-time to avoid this and skirt under the law. Oh, you're welcome, part-time employee. You're welcome, says Senator Mark Begich. Okay, now listen to this. I've just completed Onward. It's a book by Howard Schultz. He is the CEO and founder of Starbucks. And guess what he offers every single partner? Out of self-interest, out of self-motivation, out of what he chooses to do. He has the freedom to choose, or at least had the freedom to choose, to give every single employee that wears a green apron, every single partner in the Starbucks organization, full health care coverage. This is prior to Obama Begich Care. What do you think is going to happen when it goes into full effect and all of Begich Care is brought down, the full force of Begich Care is brought down on the hammer of Begich Care, if you will, is brought down on businesses? Well, it might be likely that we see, part-time employees at Starbucks, we can't really afford to pay this for you because, it's so onerous now. Leave it alone. Let the private enterprise work. Let it do its job, because it will. It absolutely will. In 35 seconds, how can I tell you who won? Tracy and Mandy, you are both our winners of the Blackwater Bend Espresso coffee card. So I want to thank everybody who participated. And guess what? What I could tell earlier, and I'll do the tally and put it out on Facebook and our website, AdventureAlaskaRadio.com, but every single one of you thought that the man who was mauled had learned his lesson. No fine should be needed. A fine should be imposed for not hearing what my mom calls the greatest show on earth. I'm Christopher Story. We'll see you tomorrow for Radio Realty.